Big win for us. Let's get to Saturday night's championship game, in-season tournament. Lakers beat the Pacers. Anthony Davis with just an absolute dominant performance. 41 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks. Again, these stats do not count towards the regular season, but just some context here. The last Laker to put up 40 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists in a game was Wilt Chamberlain in 1971. That's how good Anthony Davis's game was the other night. We had talked prior to the regular season starting on one of these episodes about the best version of Anthony Davis and what that would mean to the Lakers. I wanted now at the quarter mark to sort of assess Anthony Davis and sort of assess the Lakers coming off this in-season tournament championship and your overall thoughts on both of them, the Lakers and Anthony Davis's play so far.
Well, first, let me just talk about AD leading up to Saturday night, because watching him throughout this, starting with the quarterfinal game, I was so impressed with his intent every trip. And what I mean by that is what differentiates the Lakers from other teams. Whenever you look at a matchup with the Lakers and you're going to say, okay, what advantages do the Lakers have? What advantages do the other teams have? You start with the size and power and skill level of their two best players, right? LeBron and AD, with just their sheer mass and size and skill level and the way they can play in tight spaces and in the paint and just differentiate themselves from everybody else, right? That's what separates the Lakers from other teams. So watching AD in the last 3 games, I'm used to seeing AD sometimes in a regular season be at the 3-point line or say at 18 feet, and a shot is taken on the opposite side of the floor from the 3, and he starts jogging back, or he kind of stays in one spot and then heads back after the other team secures a defensive rebound. The intent that he had to rim run on every shot and impose himself in the paint, whether he got it or not, and he had multiple efforts at times where he was getting multiple offensive rebounds or multiple tips or just running in there and having 2 guys occupy themselves to keep him off the glass, which enabled opportunities for other people to come in and get them a second possession. I just thought his consistent effort and purposefulness was so impressive. And look, we know when he does that, JJ, he's just different. There's not a real answer for somebody like Anthony Davis defensively. Schematically, from a personnel standpoint, you just don't have what it takes to deal with him when he is playing with that level of force. And I thought it was really the entire last 3 games. I didn't see every second of all of their 4 in-season tournament games in their pool play, but certainly starting with the quarterfinals, you're watching every minute of those games, and he is the difference between the Lakers being a team that's okay, good team, probably not going to be on the level of a Denver or a Milwaukee or Boston, and being a team that you could actually legitimately make a case for could win a title. That's the Anthony Davis we just saw throughout. Certainly that's the one we saw on Saturday night when it was just completely overwhelming for the Indiana Pacers front line to deal with Anthony Davis. When you watch that, you start to realize, you can't really make judgments on the Lakers in the regular season when they have these weird nights where they don't look all that interested. This is a team built for the playoffs, and specifically Anthony Davis. That's when he's going to make his impact felt. And can he do it consistently? It's always been the question. When he does, you see what that looks like on Saturday night.
A few things there. First of all, I love that assessment of the Lakers in terms of what their advantage is. It's such a smart way to put it. Their advantage is the fact that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are bigger and more skilled than 99% of NBA players. I mean, that's just the reality. It is that size, and it is that skill, it is that power, it is that strength. That's what gives them an advantage. You bring up them as a championship team and not necessarily our playoff team and not necessarily a regular season team. They're 14-9 right now. I think they're 2 games in the loss column out of second place in the Western Conference. This to me is a big week for them, where I think now that we're at the quarter mark, some teams are going to start to separate. Maybe not the first and the second seed, but certainly the second and the third seed from the 7th and the 8th seed. They've got the Mavs tomorrow night, big game. And then they've got 2 games in San Antonio, back to back. Wednesday night in San Antonio, Friday night in San Antonio. That game will be on ESPN. I'll be calling that game. And so this is a week where they have a chance to be 17-9 going into the week before Christmas. That would be huge to me, given how poorly they have shot the basketball. I want to provide a little bit of color on that championship game against the Pacers. The Pacers right now are selling out to defending the three-point line. And they have not been a good defensive team, but I will give them credit. I thought the quarterfinal game, the semifinal game, and the championship game were the 3 best defensive games they've had this season. Yeah, and it's not about the counting numbers. You know, Zach and I talked about this on his podcast. Zach Lowe and I talked about this on the podcast. To me, it's the effort. To me, it's the rotation. Look, they're not fundamentally built outside of Miles Turner maybe, and at times Bruce Brown, who oftentimes is undersized on his matchups. They don't have a ton of big defenders, right? So I thought the effort was great. Here's the thing, though. They sell out to the three-point line. This was a perfect game for Anthony Davis. Lakers only took 13 three-point shots, and that's part of the Indiana defensive strategy. Anthony Davis had 32 paint points. All of his made field goals were in the paint. I mean, he ate consistently at the rim. And so some of that dominance was because of that strategy. Miles Turner just had no answer for him. And again, it goes back to your thing. He's too big. He's too skilled. He's too strong. So I think that leads me into some of the criticism at times, some of the questioning around his consistency. And I thought Zach Lowe on Friday in his column for ESPN put it perfectly. I'm quoting Zach here. The lost jumper is the difference. The reason Davis can't score like Jokic or Embiid every night. The lost jumper is the difference. He's shooting 21% on long twos. He's 3 of 13 from 3 this season. He shot 47% on jumpers in the playoffs in the 2020 bubble. He shot 37% on jumpers since then. So if you want to point to the inconsistencies in terms of the scoring night to night, it's very simple. He's not a good jump shooter. He's not going to consistently make that shot. Now, you have one other person outside of those 2 guys, Embiid and Jokic, that I would sort of throw into this mix of these highly skilled bigs, and that's Giannis. Giannis, to me, is sort of the outlier here in that he is the modern-day Shaq. He leads the league in paint points. He scores 20 points a game in the paint. He's going to bully his way consistently over and over again into the paint. And so, and by the way, even though the Bucks, like, we can talk about their struggles, all whatever, they have the spacing, they have the shooting around him that he's going to get there. This to me is the Lakers' problem right now. They cannot shoot the basketball. And we got it right here. 30th in three-pointers made, 26th in three-point percentage, 29th in three-point attempts. They've been an average half-court basketball team since the bubble. 19th last year. They're 15th this year. To me, when we talk about the playoffs, and we're going to touch on this next week or in a couple weeks on the old man of the 3, to me, in the playoffs now, in the modern NBA, you have to be able to score in the half court. And so my question to you is, because there's a lot of buzz now about maybe Zach LaVine, right? My question to you is this going to be something the Lakers have to improve internally, whether that's a healthy Gabe Vincent or Austin Reeves shooting the ball better? Or if you're the Lakers, do you go out and get shooting versus another star player to complement LeBron and AD?
Yeah, I think I would focus on the latter. I think I would go get shooting. You've got 2 guys that are going to separate themselves in every matchup they have. Like when you look at Anthony Davis and LeBron James, assuming that Anthony Davis is playing as hard as he was throughout this tournament, you have 2 guys that at no point defensively against them is there an advantage that you have. So think about how many teams in the league can actually say that. They've got 2 guys that win on paper every matchup in front of them. And so when you start from that point And then you've got, a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who on a given night, he can be a 20-plus point scorer when you need to. Austin Reeves has shown that he can do that and also take on a lot of the playmaking responsibility. So do you have enough initiators and I think high-level offensive players that now you need to get guys that maybe specialize a little bit more? Because like 34, 35%, 32%, that's not going to get it done from those spots. You need guys that when they're getting these open looks, and with LeBron and AD on the floor, these looks are pretty clean. This has to be a shot that's made at a much higher clip. And you've got to focus on getting that. Now, can you internally improve that? I think that's a difficult thing to do. You kind of are who you are from the three-point line. Now, Austin Reeves had a very poor start to the season. And I don't know why that was. For whatever reason, maybe he was putting too much pressure on himself because he got the contract. He kind of snuck up on people last year. He became a story. He played so well throughout the postseason. Now you get some money. And I think he was just pressing. He's been significantly better here over the last 10, 12 games, right? So now his three-point shooting, you expect now to be something that's going to be where it's at now the rest of the season. That's not enough. I agree with you. It's too spotty and too iffy on a given night. It didn't matter against the Pacers because you could overwhelm them physically with these matchups that you had inside the three-point line. Didn't matter against them. It's going to matter against some of the bigger teams. The Pacers basically, you look at their lineup, JJ, they're not even as big as a lot of starting lineups in Power 5 conferences. I mean, that's literally the team that they're rolling out there. It's four guards for the most part. 3 guards, Obi Toppin and Miles Turner.
Yeah, Obi's playing a lot of center right now with Jalen Smith being hurt over the last week, 10 days, however long it's been. Obi's been playing a lot of center. So You're right. They're completely undersized at a lot of positions.
That won't be the case when you play when you play a Milwaukee. That's where you end up in the NBA Finals, right? You get a team like that. You get a team like Denver. That's different. It's bigger. It's more physical. They can beat you also playing that internal game. So yeah, I think that they're going to have to certainly improve their shooting. I think what I want to see now going forward here is there going to be a hangover from this for Anthony Davis? Is there going to be a hangover for the Lakers a little bit? Because now, okay, this was great. And this created what the league wanted to create, a sense of purpose and a little bit more urgency for some of these regular season games here early in the year. But now what happens? You still got a couple months till the All-Star break. And then after that, we know it's a sprint. Right now, teams are really starting to get their ducks in a row and get ready for the postseason. But what about this 2-month stretch coming up? Is there a hangover at all where we start to see some of these, inconsistent nights and we question them again? Or are we going to have what we just saw over the last, 7 games for the Lakers indelibly etched in our minds? And we're going to remember, no, I don't care. I don't care what happened on a game against, whoever in Memphis in, January 8th on a Wednesday night. And the Lakers look like they mailed it in. I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to think about what happened in this in-season tournament. I'm curious to see that because we have a couple months stretch here, the dog days of the season.
Yep.
For a team like the Lakers, we might still see some more of this inconsistency out of AD. Obviously, the three-point shooting, that's not going to change much, I don't think, between now and the trading deadline probably. So I'm curious to see what our reaction is going to be or overreaction to what we see out of the Lakers over the next couple of months. Because right now, I think everybody would agree what we just saw. That's a team that could potentially win the whole thing. And I'm curious if we maintain that throughout what we're about to see over the next couple of months.